They say that the eyes are the window to the soul, that they never lie, and that they speak what the lips could not. What if I told you that millions of people around the world and across time periods believe that the eyes could cause harm, not by emitting lasers, but by zapping their target with hatred and envy? Welcome to another Helinika Podcast episode where we explore various cross-cultural topics with Greece at the epicenter. I'm your hostess Marialena, and today we dive into one of the most common Greek superstitions, a supernatural belief that according to Pew Research Center, 66% of Greeks believed in 2017. And if you have ever visited Greece even once, I can guarantee that you have witnessed amulets that protect against it. This is called tomati, which means the eye in Greek, and you may have also heard the name Vascania. Perhaps someone has given some explanations to you as to what it really is, but trust me when I say that the topic is much more complex than it seems, spanning for thousands of years and across borders. From the Cyclades to the streets of Istanbul and the hill towns of Sicily, the same eye watches. It usually starts with excessive yawning, not because of tiredness or lack of sleep. You may or may not feel a headache, but you will definitely experience some sort of brain fog, as if a cloud surrounds you. In extreme cases, you may lose your balance, and if its effects are too strong, you can easily pass out. Some report nausea and unexplained feelings of sadness or anxiety. Rashes may appear on their skin, resembling an allergic reaction without any exposure to an allergen. Some get tearful, and others need to exit the room and seek solitude. And in all cases, the reported symptoms started all of a sudden and in a matter of seconds, usually after entering a room or being present in a crowded area. Today, all of the above symptoms could be explained in various ways: dehydration, exhaustion, low blood sugar, stress. For example, someone with social anxiety may enter a crowded room and his fears may manifest in psychosomatic symptoms. Or someone who waited standing for way too long with no food or water may collapse when they are called to give a speech in front of a crowd. In certain cases, the affected person may be exposed to an airborne allergen they may not know they are mildly allergic to. If you grew up in a culture that believes in the so-called Vascania, then you may diagnose yourself with something different, with a condition known as Xe-matiasma that can range from mild discomfort to death. The ones that are affected the most are small children and infants, but also animals and plants, because yes, Xe-matiasma can affect all beings, human or not. This is, of course, a superstition, a folk belief that predates the modern Hellenic state, and that although it is not founded on scientific evidence, it is believed by more than half the Greek population, or at least that was the percentage that admitted to carry this belief to Pew Research Center. Before we go into the alleged causes, I should clarify that Xe-matiasma or Vascania does not require medical interventions. It is a spiritual affliction that manifests in physical symptoms. What is required according to the superstition is the so-called Xe-matiasma, the process of removing this non-physical sort of virus out of the person's system. Surprisingly, this superstition is accepted by the Greek Orthodox Church, which attributes Vascania to demonic and unclean spirits, which gain access to someone via another person's envy. A prerequisite for their success is, of course, the afflicted person's lack of faith or distance from the Church and its mysteries. The Greek Church has dedicated prayers against Vascania, such as the ones of Saint Kyprianos and Saint Arsenios. There is also the general advice of participating actively in the sacraments and to avoid a sinful life. However, tomati is a belief that predates Christianity. In the not-so-distant past, there were professional Xe-matiastres, women who claimed to possess the knowledge to remove the Vascania from someone with folk remedies. There's even a movie from 1958 called Xe-matiasma, starring Georgia Vasiliadou, that shows the prevalence of the professional Xe-matiastres at that time, with the working folk running to them for help instead of calling the family doctor. Today, this profession is eliminated and most households have their own Xe-matiastra, usually a mother or grandmother figure. As you have already noticed, it is mostly women who take upon this role, but that does not mean that men cannot perform Xe-matiasma. In fact, some believe that you can only learn the practice from someone of the opposite gender. Therefore, these Xe-matiastres must have learned their craft from a male relative. But not everyone can succeed in this role. There is an innate and even inherited predisposition to it. Usually, the Xe-matiasma is an easy process. The matiasmenos, the person afflicted by Vascania, sits in front of the Xe-matiastra. The latter closes her eyes and starts saying the prayer or folky spell she has learned from her mentor. She performs the sign of the cross with her hands facing the matiasmenos and slightly spits towards them. Not in a dramatic way. The spitting process is rather dry and symbolic. This act has been believed by Greeks and other cultures to ward off evil for millennia. If the Xe-matiasma is successful, the Xe-matiastra will start yawning and even cry while whispering her prayer. The afflicted person will then feel a sense of relief almost instantly. The reported sense of fogginess or dissociation will disappear as quickly as it came by. Now, depending on the exact location you find yourself in Greece and the skill level of the Xe-matiastra, the practice may even be more complicated, resembling a ritual. For example, some may use a method of confirming the Vascania by dropping olive oil in a cup of water. They observe whether the olive oil will blend with the water or not. Normally, these two liquids do not naturally blend. They are immiscible. But countless Xe-matiastres and matiasmeni will swear that they have seen the olive oil drop slightly melting into the water. As a Greek, I have even witnessed this happening. If this is the case, the afflicted person is confirmed to be matiasmenos. Some Xe-matiastres even claim to be able to identify the person who caused the Vascania by burning carnation grains and making the matiasmenos think of those he or she suspects. If the carnation grain bursts, while a specific face was visualized, this person is the one to blame. Because yes, the Vascania is believed to be caused by someone else, lurking in the shadows, observing a person they envy with all their heart. They may be at the same place, but at the era of social media, they can be anywhere. This person is so envious that possesses what is known as the evil eye internationally, το κακό μάτι in Greek or the a ojo in Spanish. A stare so intense, it can literally kill. Those with blue eyes, bushy eyebrows, and deep eye sockets are believed to cause the most intense types of Vascania. Although anyone can cause this, even when admiring someone, they may unconsciously feel competitive towards. If you have ever traveled in Greece and in other countries where this superstition is prevalent, you may have noticed a sort of amulet hanging everywhere. From tree branches, babies' carriages, doorknobs, and women's necklaces. I'm referring to these white and blue beads that resemble an eye. I already mentioned that blue-eyed people are believed to cause the Vascania easily. Well, they can also ward it off. Hence the blue-eyed amulets, which are called nazar in the Middle East and simply mataki in Greece. There is no wonder why this shade of sky and Mediterranean blue covers the roofs, doors, and windows of traditional homes across Greece and in the Mediterranean. Yes, you may have seen it in Morocco. This color was believed to repel all kinds of evils, from mosquitoes to demons, and such traditions are as ancient as they can be. Ancient Greek ships often featured painted eyes on their prows, typically with concentric circles in blue and white, intended to ward off the evil eye. These eyes, known as ophthalmi, were believed to have an apotropaic function, protecting the sailors from harmful forces and the ill effects of envy. We will soon see what apotropaic means. Another perhaps bizarre item that ancient Greeks used is no other than the so-called phallos or fascinos in Latin, as the Romans adopted this amulet as well. For reasons that you will understand, modern Greeks do not carry such amulets on them, nor do they hang them from necklaces or, God forbid, baby carriages. But if you have visited an ultra-touristic market in Greece, you may have seen them dangling around, erected. These were symbols of divine masculinity and were believed to scare away evil forces. Another ancient Greek apotropaic amulet was the despicable face of the Gorgon, a mythical monster that was believed to turn its victims into stone with its terrifying appearance. Imagine a head that has snakes instead of hair, a long serpentine tongue, long fangs, and the eyes of a predator. Other faces, such as the ones of satyrs, were also used in the same way. In Greece's most recent past, it was not uncommon to see face molds on the outer walls of the houses. In certain islands, such as Egistri, you can still see them today. Some locals report that these were faces of ancestors, people who used to live in these homes and are now their protectors. Even the symbols of open palms have been used as an amulet. But the so-called moudja, as the open palm is called in Greece, is so complex that it would be hard to analyze within this episode. Now, these face molds, amulets, and painting techniques can be described as a form of apotropaic magic. The word apotropaic comes from the Greek word apotropeos, meaning to ward off. Apotropaic magic includes anything from the cross to garlic to a mataki, symbols believed to repel evil, either in the form of a person, an animal, or a spirit. So the mataki, the blue-eyed bead, is the most common type of amulet used today that is not directly connected to the official religion. Only the cross symbol and icons of saints are the accepted amulets of the Greek Orthodox Church. It is hard to pinpoint the exact geographic location and chronology of these superstitions. The belief in the evil eye is widespread and transcends many cultures and regions across the world. Apart from Greece, you will find the belief in the evil eye in Turkey, Cyprus, the entire Middle East, in parts of Italy and Spain, in the Balkans, and in North Africa. Archaeologists and historians generally date protective amulets and eye motifs to at least the early 3rd millennium BCE in Mesopotamia. But the fear of envy as a supernatural force can predate the time. The American folklorist Alan Dundes has studied this phenomenon and noticed that it mostly affects specific cultures. He has stated the following in an older interview at Cabinet magazine, which I'm going to vocalize, but not with his own voice, of course.
The evil eye is an Indo-European and Semitic belief complex. It is not found among native North or South Americans or in Oceania. It's a belief based on the idea that an individual, either male or female, has the power to cause harm to another individual or to that individual's property by simply looking at or praising that person's property. And the harm can consist of illness, even death, and the destruction of property.
What is quite interesting is that he, along with the anthropologist George Foster, connected the belief to the evil eye to a scarcity mindset. To quote him, he has stated the following:
The idea is that many peasant societies have what anthropologist George Foster refers to as the concept of limited good. There's only so much wealth and health. So you want to conceal your wealth because people are going to wish that they had it, otherwise you'll lose it. This is why the evil eye is not particularly popular in America, because we have a notion of unlimited good.
Now, the English anthropologist Sir Edward Evans Pritchard suggested that this belief is in fact universal in human societies, linked to the psychological impact of jealousy and social dynamics. It may take different forms across cultures. For example, envy, hostility, and social rivalry can result in witch hunts in certain communities, which he himself observed in the Asante groups in Central Africa. In the chapter Witchcraft is an Organic and Hereditary Phenomenon of his book Witchcraft, Oracles, and Magic Among the Asante, Evans Pritchard explains that the Asante believe that some people are witches and can injure them in virtue of an inherent quality. To quote him,
"A witch performs no rite, utters no spell, and possesses no medicines. An act of witchcraft is a psychic act."
Is it just me, or does the witch in the Asante culture sound like a person who possesses the evil eye, causing misfortune just by feeling, thinking, seeing? No craft is required in this case. It is not a teachable skill, it is part of someone's bad nature, mean-spirited personality. Now, it would be very interesting to understand why people started believing in this superstition to begin with. Is it a projection of one's own feelings of inadequacy? For example, someone with an inferiority complex enters a room and feels attacked by other people's stare, as if they can see through him or her. The attack this person feels may be then translated into hostility, although this is not the case at all. The others simply look at the person who enters their space. But the one who already feels inferior to the rest may project his or her own envy upon them. They must be jealous of me, he or she might think, when in fact he or she is the one having the jealous feelings after all. This is of course a personal interpretation and can only explain the sudden feelings of Xe-matiasma someone experiences when entering a room, not when their favorite vase breaks unexplainably after their neighbor stared at it for too long. An interesting take is the one of the psychologist Michael Argyll, who noted that envy is a powerful social emotion and that supernatural beliefs often symbolize and manage these feelings. Because envy can threaten social bonds, people develop cultural mechanisms, including superstitions and supernatural beliefs. To symbolically manage and control these emotions, beliefs like the evil eye serve as a social warning system that discourages boastfulness or attracting envy, thus preserving social harmony by making envy visible and punishable. Supernatural explanations provide a way to externalize and ritualize these uncomfortable emotions, which helps people cope with the uncertainty and anxiety they generate. It is clear that culture plays a role in forming superstitions. For example, take a culture that has a scarcity mindset due to experiencing prolonged periods with a lack of resources, such as after a famine or a war. They can have higher levels of emotions such as envy among its society members, and as a result, it finds ritualistic ways to exorcise these emotions. For example, by performing a session of Xe-matiasma. As a Greek, I can attest that my culture can be indeed high in jealousy. We even have a sarcastic phrase to explain it. Να πεθάνει η κατσίκα του γείτονα. Let the neighbor's goat die. After the Greek financial crisis of 2010, many of us have noticed that jealousy is more prevalent than ever. People often do not like seeing others succeed, as if the other person's success will stop their own. This, of course, has multiple effects on culture as well. In other words, It goes both ways. Culture influences superstitions, and superstitions influence culture. A great contemporary example is how lifestyle influencers are perceived in Greece versus in the United States, which of course has a culture that admires successful people based on a sense of abundance, infinite opportunities, and a belief that everyone can achieve anything they set their mind to. It is also a culture that focuses on individuality. People are encouraged to be the center of attention. So let's say you visit a US-based influencer's page on Instagram, where they showcase their lavish lifestyle and frequent travels. You will see that they are mostly praised, and why wouldn't they? The people who follow them should like this type of content, right? Well, try finding a Greek influencer whose life looks too good to be true. What you'll find is several guilt-tripping comments shaming them for showing off their privilege, while others suffer. Somehow they still follow and observe them. Now, do not be surprised if you see the said influencer using the nazar emoji in their description. They know for a fact that many of their followers do not admire them, they envy them. And you can see it in many ways. Modern Greeks are often hesitant to make a toast at a party or perform in front of a crowd. They know that being at the spotlight carries some risks. Now, I personally do not believe that everything is necessarily abandoned. There are limitations and obstacles, and sometimes even if you try hard, you may not be able to easily overcome them. I think the truth is somewhere in between these two ways of thinking. Competition is part of life, and it can be healthy in some ways, but wishing other people's downfall or blaming them for your problems can be so limiting. It is like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you experience failure after failure because there is not enough room for success, or even worse, because the others looked at you the wrong way. Now, the influence of the evil eye superstition on cultures can be seen in so many different ways. Another modern Greek example is how parents usually advise their children to never broadcast their plans before actually taking a step to fulfilling them. At any happy event, such as a wedding, if you see a glass or plate breaking, that is actually a good thing. People's jealousy is externalized without hurting the person at the spotlight. The intensity of emotions harms the object instead. Well, if you have watched some vintage Greek movies, then you may have seen people breaking plates on purpose while celebrating. It was another form of apotropaic magic that is becoming less common nowadays. Today, with the rise of New Age practices and spiritualism, more and more people are aware of the evil eye. In fact, I do see more Westerners wearing nazar amulets, while in the past I only noticed the symbol worn by Greeks, Turks, and Arabs. Some scientists or pseudoscientists claim that the human eye can emit negative energy or psychic waves fueled by emotions like envy, jealousy, or hatred. The evil eye is described as a form of energy attack, where this energy disrupts the target's personal aura or biofield. Nazar amulets in this framework are thought to absorb, reflect, or neutralize these harmful energy emissions before they reach the person. A common explanation is that thoughts and emotions have electromagnetic frequencies that can influence others at a distance. For example, in Anthropology of Consciousness, the Canadian psychiatrist Colin Ross puts forward the ocular extramission hypothesis, suggesting measurable low-frequency brainwaves might underpin the sense of being stared at. But this remains speculative and unaccepted by some mainstream scientists. Now, before we end this episode, I want to address you. Yes, you. I'm passing the microphone to you. Do you believe in the evil eye? Do you wear any type of amulet, either religious or folkies? It doesn't really matter. Do you believe that someone's feelings towards you can actually affect your body? Is it pure psychology, or is there a spiritual or energetical aspect to it? Leave a comment down below and share your thoughts. If you are from a different cultural background, let me know if you had heard about the superstition and what are some unique supernatural beliefs you want to share with me. As always, you can find some helpful information in the description. Make sure to like, share and subscribe to stay connected. And if you want to join a secret philosophical group here on YouTube, you can join Helinika Society via the join button. See you again with another episode.